Let's get paid, y'all. Live dogs in the mix.
What's going on, guys? Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg. UFC Mexico is upon us. If you followed us on the last card, you saw that we are back on track. Our live dog, Chris Padilla, did hit. And we got the main event pick. We are 8-2 on everything, and we are back in the swing of things. I am happy to be here. I think we have some great fights on this card. Mexicans, their style always brings excitement. So, I'd like to go ahead and bust it wide open. So let's do it. The first fight's going to be Austin Hubbard versus Markel Medeiros. I think Medeiros will win. Younger, more athletic, more dangerous. He has taken a little bit of time off, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. Austin Hubbard is a hard guy to put away, so it may go late or it may go to decision, but I will take Medeiros. And then we have Jamal Emmers versus Gabriel Miranda. I'm going to take Emmers, but keep in mind, Emmers does not have a great fight IQ. He loses fights sometimes because he makes mistakes out there. He can get submitted in this fight if he does not watch his ass. But he's way more dangerous. I think he's a little bit bigger. I think he can get a finish here. I will take Emmers, but I don't know if I'd parlay him because of that IQ. Rafa Garcia versus Vince Pichel. This one is going to throw a lot of y'all for a loop, but I am going to tentatively take Vince Pichel. I think this is a 50-50 fight. But, Vince Pichel is a plus 300 and something underdog. You're a plus 300 and something underdog in a fight that you're live in. So, as a predictor, as somebody who's making predictions for you, I do feel kind of tentative about picking Vince Pichel, who's 42 years old, who has slowed down in a fight like this. But as somebody who bets money, I think he's worth a sprinkle. I think he's worth a little bit of juice here because he's a way bigger favorite than he should be for a guy in Rafa Garcia who has kind of been looking like he's on the decline. And Vince Pichel is durable. He's hard to put away. At worst, he could get submitted or make this a close fight and the decision not go his way because they're in Mexico. So this is a very dicey pick. But I do see Vince Pichel being able to keep up with the pace of Garcia, use his vet savvy, and steal a couple rounds. So I am tentatively going to take Vince Pichel. I don't like a lot of underdogs on this card. And last week, I wanted to take Chris Duncan as my live dog. I talked myself out of it. A lot of people, a lot of the information that was coming to me and a lot of things I looked into kind of swayed me away from that. And I don't want to do that again. Because I went from not only picking Duncan, and putting him as a live dog to picking Vucinic, and that was a mistake, man. So I'm gonna go with my gut this week because when I went against it, it hasn't went well for me. Same thing has happened to me before. So hey, what worked once may not work again. But we're in the fight business. That's just a game that we play when we're gambling. And I think that Vince Pichel is worth a gamble, so I'm gonna take him. Julia Pilastri versus Lupita Godinez. Lupi is gonna be my pick here, but just like Emmers, she is not very bright in that cage. She's had a lot of bad decision making that has caused her to lose fights that she should have arguably won. We know she's talented. We know that she may not be the best striker when it comes to Pilastri, but Pilastri, that's all she does. She's an okay striker, decent jiu-jitsu, but Lupi's better everywhere. So I think as long as she keeps that mind in check, this is her fight. I think she's the A side here, and I will take Lupi Godinez. But I'm not confident in that because of the decision making. And I do think that Pilastri, she's game. And also, when I look at Lupi Godinez's previous opponents and records, I see a lot of bad stuff on there, man. I just can't feel confident picking her, but I'm gonna do it. I just don't know if I'm gonna bet it. Also, Lupi Godinez has tons of split decisions, so this one could go split. Look into the split decision, especially if it's not really going her way. The Mexicans, with her being, kind of from there, they are going to favor her, so they may give her an extra round. So that could really mess with the judges. I think a split decision prop is probably good here, but I'm going to go with Godinez. And then we have Melky Costa. I'm not saying his whole name because y'all know I can't do it. First, Christian Rodriguez. I went from Christian Rodriguez to Costa, who I was thinking Costa might be my live dog, but I'm going to go back to C-Rod. I have picked against C-Rod a couple times, and he's burned me. But I think he is strong enough, even though, he's going to be a little bit smaller out there, to keep the fight where he wants it. I think he's slightly more dangerous with the hands. I did pick against Rodriguez in the Julian Erosa fight, and I also hit the submission prop. Melky Costa can definitely get a submission here. So, I would play either Costa by submission, or I would do Rodriguez by a late TKO, or like a third round TKO, or maybe, he'll get the decision. He's Mexican. He's American, but, the name, he's in Mexico. They'll probably favor him. It seems like they do have a little bias judging there from what I've seen. A lot of favorites win there too. So it's a tough one, but as of right now, I'm going to go with Rodriguez. Keep in mind, though, I can change my mind by Thursday, and I very well may. But I think Rodriguez is the pick here. I just really like a lot of favorites on this card. Atiba Gutierrez versus Jose Medina. I think that Gutierrez is definitely going to run through this guy. Now, look, I almost picked Vera in the Musasa fight that we saw a week or two ago. And I didn't do it because I kind of talked myself out of it like I was talking about earlier. This could be a spot where Gutierrez gasses and gets submitted. He's done it. He's definitely gassed and shown to quit before. But this guy is better than Musasa. This guy has more power, has a little bit more experience. And also, he already went up against a jiu-jitsu whiz on the Contender Series, and he passed the test, and he stuffed the takedowns. I think that because of that, it would be stupid not to pick him here. It's not the same, but it could be the same outcome, but it's not near as likely. I will take Atiba Gutierrez. And then we have Edgar Chavez versus CJ Vergara. CJ Vergara was one of the dogs that I looked at for this card. He was kind of going to be my live dog, but I went back and watched some tape. I think he's a little small. I think that Chavez is just more dangerous. And I don't think that Vergara, even though he's tough and he can survive and he can come back, I don't think he takes punishment as well as, Chavez. Chavez does fade after the first half of the fight, especially in elevation, but he's from Mexico, so he can deal with that. That makes me feel a little bit more safer about picking him. And his ground game, his submission game has gotten really good. So I'm going to take Chavez here. Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Kevin Borjas. Kevin Borjas was another guy I looked at for one of my live dogs for this card. Because I think that Borjas is a little underrated. He's had some tough losses. He's fought some really tough competition in there. And Ronaldo Rodriguez has struggled in some of the fights that he's been in. He arguably lost to Ode Osborne. I don't think he did, but it was close. But I just don't think Borjas is going to have enough of a power threat to stop Rodriguez, who will keep coming forward, who will put the pressure, who will have the hometown advantage. And so I will tentatively take Ronaldo Rodriguez and another favorite. Then we have David Martinez. I'll make this one quick. David Martinez should win. He's got power for striking. He's a great striker. He's a good prospect. I just don't see him losing here. It's just that's pretty simple, y'all. He's a good piece to parlay for sure. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Vince Morales. Vince Morales is going to be game, but he's not going to be game enough. I do believe eventually that submission will come. I understand that Raul Rosas Jr. is a little overhyped, and they're really pushing him, and they've given him some favorable matchups. And they may be doing that here. But you have to also understand that Raul Rosas Jr. is also improving. He's constantly improving. I'm seeing the improvements. So I think that at this time, he is good enough to beat Vince Morales. So I will take him. Kevin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. I'm going to take Joe Pyfer because I think he's bigger. I think he's more dangerous, a little bit more of a threat at this time. Calvin, his inconsistencies have really plagued him and plagued me because I really like him. And I thought Tyron Woodley, he took Israel Adesanya to the brink. So he has the potential to be great, but I think that has left him at this time. I really think Joe Pyfer is going to win here. I think he's bigger. I think he hits harder. I think he has more upside. And I don't really like Kelvin at 185. I really like Kelvin at 170, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that Kelvin. So outside of Piper maybe gassing and Kelvin getting him late, I do think Piper's a solid pick here and a solid parlay play. And I will be placing my bets on Joe Piper 100%. And then we have Manuel Torres versus Drew Dober. This fight is a lot more competitive than I initially thought. I do think that if you're looking for a knockout prop on Drew Dober, you're always looking in the right direction. But I feel like Manuel Torres is going to win. Drew Dober is 36 years old. I think his chin has finally been cracked. I do think he has slipped off a bit. And he's never really been a world beater to begin with. You know, back in the day, Drew Dober was one of my favorite fighters. But one of the things I noticed about Drew Dober is he was always getting submitted. He would come in, look okay, or look really good, and then bam, instantly locked into submission. And that's always been his weakness. And Manuel Torres has stepped up that part of his game. I think he can contend in the striking. And if it goes to the ground, which at some point they will scramble, and I do believe it will go there, I do think that Manuel Torres is live to get a submission. So I would bet this fight either Torres submission or Drew Dober by knockout. But I think it's more likely at this stage of the game that we're going to see Torres get the nod here, or get the submission. I just like his range. I like his size. I think his striking is pretty good. He's got a little bit of power of his own. And Drew Dober's just going to be, aggressive in your face, landing those big shots. But I don't think Drew Dober will have the best cardio compared to Torres either. So it's just not in his favor, y'all. So unfortunately, I really could not take him seriously as a dog in this spot. And I'm going to take Manuel Torres. And then we have the main event, Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg. I'm a big fan of both these guys. I kind of hate that they made this match because someone has to lose. Unfortunately, I do think that someone's going to be Steve Erceg. I cannot deny Brandon Moreno after seeing his last performance. I understand that Albazi was coming off of a layoff, coming off a bad injury, but I don't think that had much to do with that. I really think that an invigorated Brandon Moreno is still here, or is back to stay. And he's still at a young age, and he's still doing everything right. So I feel like he can outbox a good boxer in Steve Erceg. I think he has just as much, if not more, power than Steve Erceg in his own right. The jiu-jitsu is probably going to be on Erceg's side, but the wrestling's not. I think Brandon Moreno takes this, and I think he takes it pretty clearly. So that's it, y'all. As far as who I would parlay, who I like, y'all know I'll get that out for you tomorrow. Props, we'll probably get that underdog pick out, our live dog of the card. And it's going to be a rough one, y'all. This is a hard one. I really don't like a lot of dogs on here. I've got a couple in mind, though, that I have mentioned to you. So we will do our best to find something great so we can keep this new streak going. We lost one. We started back over. We were at 7. And now we want to get back on track. So I believe we can do that. It's just going to be a little dicey this week compared to the previous weeks. So I really like Torres. If you're looking for a parlay, David Martinez is a great spot. Edgar Chairez is probably not bad. Who else we got? Joe Piper is a great piece. Off the top of my head, that's really it. That's really all I can tell you. I would just be cautious about Lupi and be cautious about Jamal Emmers just because of their fight IQ. I do think they win, though. And, so that's it, y'all. I appreciate the love, appreciate the hate, appreciate the discourse. Let me know who you have down below in the comments. And until I see you next time, let's get paid, y'all.
Let's get paid, y'all. Live dogs in the mix.